Well, to me, learning is about keeping myself motivated to continue learning, be it in a real-time chat context, or like currently the image generation context. As long as I can learn some stuff from there, then I do not mind trying out. Alright, with that being said, image generation tool is definitely not free. So the disclaimer is that you will have to top up in order to follow through this learning process. For me, I've invested like $5 just for me to pay as a learning cost, And secondly, it provides several ways of integration according to the documentation. The first one be it REST API. They provide a HTTP API that you use any server, you can communicate to the API already. But they also provide a much easier alternative that is on the standard development kits. So they're written in two languages. One is on the Python, another is a JavaScript, which is NodeJS technically. So using the SDK, they provide the abstraction towards their image generation and all other tools, so that you can just use a function call to communicate with the service. Well, I also use other tools altogether. The disclaimer first is that this project setup is, to me, is not perfect yet, because when I was experimenting around, I still feel something is not right, but I can't tell which thing is not right. Okay, so but let's get started. I will explain what are the tools that I've used first and the rationale behind it. Right, first thing is the server I'm using, the Express.js. So Express.js is a super lightweight Node.js framework for setting up the web server. And I also use a Vite together with TypeScript to do my package management. To do my what we call that, bundler compilation. So Vite is a sort of like Webpack alternative that I think is a better option because of its performance and simplicity. In fact, I tried using Webpack beforehand and I could not get the right feeling done. So I switched it to use a Vite instead. Well, using a Vite on compiling the things into like a JavaScript bundler. I'm also using Tailwind to configure my as an styling tool. So it provides a preset of classes that I can just straight away put a class in, then boom, the page will have beautiful style. I'm using npm to do the package management, install dependencies, all this. So npm is a preferred option because of the somewhere I saw a statistics or something that npm is now faster version or a faster tool as compared to other tools like Yarn. So I just use npm. For hot reloading, I'm using NodeDaemon. So NodeDaemon allows me to edit some code and then boom, once I save it, the changes will immediately apply to the website. I'm using TypeScript definitely, and I'm also using, let me check. Oh, another final thing is Marko. So Marko is a template engine. So in the context of backend development, they are when I'm trying to serve, like for example, when I try to serve some data to the users, I can serve like static HTML page. So user go into a page and then they can see the text, etc. But I can also use a thing called the template engine, so that my HTML is provided with additional feature. Like for example, Marko, I can put in the dynamic data, I can put in say parameters, I can put in if else condition, looping, all this thing. So they provide some flavors on top of normal HTML. There are also other alternatives that are probably more popular, like the one I see in Express is PUG, that one. There might be also other options, but the thing is, I actually I don't like using template engine that doesn't seem like a HTML one. Like Marko, you can see I can put in like normal HTML, not an issue. It doesn't force me to must use their weird indentation styling or this. Yeah. So I really like how simple it is and how close it is. It looks like when compared to the static like normal HTML. Well, that's it. So rest assured that if there are tools that you are not familiar with all this, because this project's focus is never going to be deep dive into the Marko or like Tailwind or this. The core focus of it is going to be integrating with our SDK provided by OpenAI to generate images dynamically based on users' prompt. Right, enough of introduction. There's a lot of things. Let's get started by our implementation. So let me go through a bit on the project structure. Firstly, I'm using Marko. So this is the boilerplate provided by Marko. On top of that, I added this interface because I want to say that these are the tags that are allowed in a HTML text. And HTMX stands for the HTMX attributes that are needed for me to complete today's task, right? There are also other boilerplates that even myself I'm not entirely familiar with it, but I can roughly gauge what is trying to do lah. So basically this is serving a server, and then it refers to the router provided by index.tx that is inside the src folder. So here is where we put in the APIs. When it's in the route directory, it will render the index page, where I also provide a post operation that can allow the user to send a post request, then I can generate image for them based on their prompt. So here is the to-do that we are going to implement soon today. So I'm also using an environment file, but I cannot disclose the .env content, so I'm just going to put a remarks here. Later when I want to access the secret, I can straight away use this. And let's go down a bit into the styles. So styles is a Tailwind setup where I have a Tailwind CLI that whenever I want to generate the CSS, I can run the npm run CSS. It will then generate the output.css based on input.css import, like this alias, and then based on what are the classes used by our Marko components. If they are in use, then yes, it will be included in the output.css. This is a generated file that will then be used by our Marko files like this to inject the styles into the components. Well, rest assured, if you have troubles following me through the navigation, you can refer to the GitHub repository that I will put in the description as well. Right, so coming down to the images are nothing. Here is the components where I will put in the Marko components in. And a very important thing to take note when using Marko is that your components must be inside a components folder. There's a golden rule. I did a mistake that I didn't follow this rule, and it caused me a lot of troubles debugging why the heck my Marko is not working fine. Like, it doesn't work in terms of the JavaScript that I put it in. So important, just take note of it as you go through. Alright, so now we need to generate an image. Let's have a look at how the current index.marko looks like by npm run dev. Npm run dev. So npm run dev, it will call this package.json, and then it will go to the dev script that's called nodedaemon. That nodedaemon is going to be in charge of the hot reloading. Right, wait for a while. That's actually a very long time. Okay, so index.ts, it doesn't return anything. So basically we are going to return the response. So we call this as a res.marko, and then we need to have a component. So import template from index.marko, and res.marko is going to tag in our template file, and secondly it's going to tag data in. If there's no data, we just put in an empty object. So here it tells the server to render the blank page for us. So this is our main page, index.marko. Right, so inside this index.marko, let's have a look at what we want to put in. First is, we're going to open a tab called hash1 and close it with, say that generate image, and give it a bit of style, white color text. Okay, and we also have, say, a form that is of the class of flex column, items center, and align item center, and also we have the gap of, say, 6. And inside that we have an input field called name equal to prompt. So this is the prompt that user will going to put in later on. And then we have this what I call this as button. So button is going to submit things. So the type of the button is going to be submit, and we also have the class, which is a text white, going to make our button white color. And here is a generate button. Well, that should be it for now. Let's have a look. Right, so we have the generate image. So we call this a DALL node. DALL node. So this is our title. We have a prompt that we can input the text, and we have this generate button that when we click it, it will go to the submit. Yeah, you will submit the request to our server. Right, so here is the header. As you can see, I have two imports. One is the HTMX CDN. So this includes the HTMX script. So now my HTML is empowered with hashx text already. Secondly is the link. So this link is actually pointing to our loading indicator. So I found this material symbols where I can have an hourglass top. So I'm using this hourglass, insert the icon here, copy, to put it probably because we have a generate button, we also probably have an image, right? So here we are putting image, and right below it is going to be the hourglass top with a certain text white color. So we have this thing when our component is still loading, our image is still loading. So below the button, probably I can also have the image content. So image is going to be 200 times 200 image, and this is going to be a generated image from our OpenAI. Right, so in order to put the image, because the nature of later I want to swap in, so HTMX is like swapping HTML components. So because I want to swap the new image into the old image, so I will need to specify the ID. Well, basically what I can do is I'm going to use the image, and alternate is going to be the img, for example, and then we have a src of let's give it a like the default image where I already selected. Yeah, this is the default image. Oh, what I did. Okay, so this is the default image like this, and then we have a class on say I want the width to be 200 pixel. I put like this. Height is also a 200 pixel, and then we want the object feed content. Cover, and probably, let's see, ID. So ID is needed because later, remember, I want to swap the new components in. So ID is going to be img as well, just for the sake of simplicity. Okay, so let's save the code and then we go to the localhost and see. Now we have a prompt, we have a generate button, we have a loading button, we have this default image. Everything seems fine now. So what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to one thing is, I noticed that probably it will be a better way for us to put in the components inside our subfolder. Let's check. Let me just terminate the jobs. Right. Rename this thing as image content, because I want to reuse the component later on for when the server is trying to return the text. Okay. Compile error at index.marko. Let's close this thing and open again. It's not loading. I notice when I'm using Windows, right, sometimes it's loading an eternity, taking an eternity to load things. But it's just easier for me to use Windows, so I don't need to switch operating system. But seems like this time is really slow. So index.marko is going to tag in the parameter src, where this src will going to be replace our src with import.src. And this is a syntax on Marko file whenever you want to pass in the data from the parent to this component. Other things remain the same. And from here, instead of using the img tag, I'm going to use image content text instead, and here will be src equal to the data. Right, so this is a custom tag that points to the image content. When we reload, it should show the same thing. Alright, show the same. Next, whenever I receive a data, okay, so from the index.marko, when I click the button generate, right, I want to trigger a post request. So this is about HTMX already. So I can say that it's hashtag post is the /images, send a post request, and then #x target is going to be targeting our img image, and we also have a #swap outer HTML. So outer HTML is going to swap the target image completely. Right, so this is the HTMX syntax. When I send a post request, I receive a HTML data where it comes in, it will be replacing our image content because it has the ID of img. Right, so form is now done. The next thing is, let's check if it really sends the data. So yes, now you can see it actually does send the images with a payload of prompt, but there's nothing in the prompt. If I put in some prompt, it will probably, send the prompt in. But because it's still waiting for the backend response, so it doesn't trigger another request. Before I go to implement the backend side, I also want to set up this thing called HTMX indicator. So when HTMX indicator is set, this hourglass can become the actual loading indication for the image generation. Reason being, image generation is actually a slow process where user can significantly feel how slow it is, like few seconds before the image is generated. So HTMX indicator is going to be pointing to spinner, so my ID of this is going to be spinner as well, where the class is going to add in another class called HTMX indicator. This will add opacity 0 when the data is not being loading. So it's you can see that the spinner is still here but it's hidden because nothing is loading. Alright, so let's come back to our implementation in the backend side. Now it sends a backend request, so let's assume that, or let's try if we can get the data we want by importing a template from our components /image content /index.marko, and this template is going to be res.marko template and with no data, but we need a data, we need the src data, and the src data, maybe we put another image that is more suitable, banana, to indicate that the data has now changed. So we have the src now, and here is a SNE. Alright, so this is the backend return value. It will render a image content with the data of images distinct, right? So reload. What we expect is when we press the generate image, it will change this straight into the banana. Well, it works. So the remaining thing for us to figure it out is on the OpenAPI's integration, and trust me, it's going to be the fastest of today's experiment. Okay, so image generation is let's go up a bit. So here there's a OpenAI SDK in NodeJS, so we can do like cancel this and then npm install the dependency first, OpenAI, wait for a while, and then we run the server again. Right, so run it with npm run dev. Okay, so OpenAPI package, to use that, we are going to initialize the instance first. Let's see if they are I believe there is a way to initialize one. Yeah, so we want to first of all import the OpenAI first, and then based on the documentation, create an instance of OpenAI with the API key that's called process.env.openai API secret. So this is the name that I've set in my .environment file. And secondly, it's going to straight away call the functions. So here I'm going to generate an image. So what I want to do is I'm going to use a OpenAI create image method, and here is the tricky part, right? So okay, there is an error when I'm trying to create an image using the documentation provided by the official one, but actually it's because they have changed the schema. So I can use a dot images dot generate to do the exactly same thing. This is the new way of doing things. Where now I'm going to replace the prompt with the custom prompt by the user. So to access that, I'm going to use a request.body.prompt. And this prompt then will replace the string prompt that is provided in the example. And image URL is going to be image response.data 0.url or nothing. And here there's another very important thing. Instead of straight away generate like this, right? Sometimes OpenAI will fail. Like for example, when you're trying to ask a prompt that is sensitive data, or that's just violating their rules, they will return an error. So to capture that, we can have a try catch mechanism. So when it fails, it doesn't break the entire system. Console.log err, and then here is going to be rest.send the entire body data called image. I don't know, like maybe just something like this. Error handling, not the biggest issue that we are going to explore today, right? So generate image and then set the image URL, and finally setting the template to the image URL. Alright, so it's either going to be a banana or the image generated by AI. Let's clear the mist now. Okay, where's my code? Right. Generate a dragon mixes with chicken. So wait for a while. Remember, it takes time, so let's just chill a bit and then wait for the response by the server. And let's just what do you call it? Pray that it will work. If it doesn't, then we'll figure out what is the reason. Oh, it works. Alright, so now we have the dragon mixed with chicken now, but I don't know why there's a color scheme here. So basically this is the idea, right? So integrating with the SDK is honestly not a big deal. They've made it super simple to interact with very low cost, I would say. Like every generated image is just not more than 1 cent. Not more than $1. I don't know what's the market right now, but it's quite chill in my opinion. Just that I need some coding, to do the integration. Well, the things that take the longest time is setting up the project, the components, and make sure that the state is properly handled, and just be better at understanding how HTMX communicate with each other with the server. Well, that is, let me just generate if chicken with mixes with a cat. So it's basically like the usual one. You can use a DALL tree to prompt things. Now, well, in the future, like in the near future as well, we shall also experiment on the other interesting tools that they provide. For example, like they can mask a certain area and change this to other creatures or other items. There are also, aside from image generation, there are also like text related one. There are also voice related one that we can experiment. Have plenty of. Do I still have plenty of the quota? Yes. Yeah, I still have plenty of quotas that I can play around with before I get broke. Well, so that is for today's sharing. Hope you enjoy that and hope you can get something out of it. Right, see you next time.